Do you want to play Skyrim with the gun? Well, it's not exactly Skyrim, but Avowed plays pretty similar, and they got guns. Avowed is Obsidian's latest game, and it just released on Steam and other platforms for the new AAA price of $69.99. Now, it is on Game Pass, so thankfully I didn't have to pay full price. But let's go ahead and talk about this game. Avowed, as I mentioned, feels similar to Skyrim, but also Fallout and Outer Worlds, with the atmosphere being closest to Skyrim with the whole fantasy theme. But I'd say that the gameplay is closest to Outer Worlds and a little like Fallout 4. To start, let's talk about the graphics. Honestly, they're pretty good, but there are times when the world has a lot to render, and I don't have the strongest computer, so maybe that's the reason I feel it. But usually I can run games on high or epic and still have a smooth 60 FPS at least. It's not bad on the optimization, but sometimes you can notice a little bit jaggedness from time to time based on where you are in the map, and it's pretty negligible, but it's still there, unfortunately. Now, the gameplay is pretty fun, with exploration being the best part. There is this parkour climbing mechanic that helps open up the world a little bit. You can't just free climb anything, but you can like run off of platforms or buildings, and as long as you get close to the ledge of something else, you'll pull yourself up and actually climb onto that ledge. And because of that, there's been times where I think I'm going somewhere where I shouldn't be going, but then I actually end up finding some loot, so it was actually expected for me to be there. And I've been having a lot of fun exploring and trying to get to every single platform and area that I see, and sometimes I can't figure them out, but sometimes they end up being hidden, or they just happen to be exits to a dungeon or something that you find around the corner. I also like that some of the areas of the world are reacted to different elements like fire, ice, and lightning. And the good thing is you're given a grimoire and a wand so that you can use it. You have to use potions to restore your mana, but you can use any one of those three at level 1. You're not locked in that aspect. But basically use the elements to burn away branches, make floating ice platforms, or you can charge these mechanical breaker box things and it'll open doors and stuff. And it's cool because you're not barred from exploring anything. All the resources that you need, even if you're not using magic, there are throwable items that create the element that you need, and it's all readily available, and so you could pretty much go anywhere aside from the areas that are locked behind story progression. And with all this movement and exploration ability, it does help with finding and gathering loot. However, on the topic of loot, I do wish that it was a lot more varied, or maybe just a little bit more. There are a fixed amount of weapons, and when you pick up a duplicate, stats and visuals are exactly the same. The only difference that you find on some weapons are unique level items. You tell that they're unique because they have a yellow border or a yellow icon, and they have a special name, and they do special effects which you can upgrade, but you don't find those all that often, so it does get a little bit boring finding the same loot over and over. And you can upgrade, so you kind of find one weapon that you really like and you just keep upgrading it as you find more resources, but all the stuff that you find is the same thing. And the unique items do relieve some of the repetition, but I just wish that they had a more in-depth loot system, especially with how much stuff you can find through the exploration. Now, the other side of the main gameplay would be combat, and the combat is still fun, but it feels a little bit unrefined. It feels kind of like combat from a lower budget game. Feels a little janky here and there, but there are combos with magic and elements, and some stuff reacts to certain elements, like you can burn grass or something, they'll be set on fire, or they'll be set on fire directly. You can also electrocute water, and so enemies standing in water will take extra electric damage, and I like those things. Like you can also freeze someone, melee them, and it will break the ice to do extra damage, but the actual physics of the combat feel off, specifically for melee enemies. Melee enemies basically have infinite range, and they'll start charging up and actually do their hit, and then they'll hit you from pretty far. Even sometimes it doesn't even look like they shouldn't be able to touch you. Now, you are able to see an indicator when they are going to attack. Their little yellow indicators above their heads, and you can dodge and not take any damage, but sometimes it just doesn't even seem like I said, they shouldn't be able to hit you at all. But at the same time, the dodge system kind of sucks because you can only dodge sideways or backwards, and if you get stuck on terrain, like if you keep backpedaling and you can't dodge anymore, so then sometimes you get stuck. Now, if you have a shield or something, it's not that big of an issue, but I mostly like playing range, and if you're doing range or magic, then you kind of just end up taking damage, and you have to hope that you can run out of there. And another thing is when you bring up your actions wheel for your skills and your abilities, usually in some games when you take down like a secondary menu screen or the pop-up menu, and say you're holding a certain input like moving to the left or to the right or charging up an attack, when you remove the menu, it'll know that you're doing that and automatically read that input. But in this game, it doesn't do that. You have to restart your input after the menu comes down, or else it won't register. And I've been stuck I've been wanting to move, and then I don't move because I have to restart moving again, basically. And it's a little annoying, but I got used to it, so it's not the biggest issue. It's just something that does happen and it's kind of annoying. But finally, there's also an attribute and skill tree system, which I think are cool. I always like skill trees. I like attributes. I feel like they add a little more to the game, but this one, it seems a little underwhelming. The skills are pretty basic and straightforward. I was kind of hoping for some more crazy, bigger skills, which you kind of get in the magic tree, but like the melee and the range, they're very simple. It's like more health or dashing costs less stamina or something. Very basic, but either way, it's still pretty good. And after combat, I'd say that the story is pretty generic and not super deep. And to be fair, I'm still pretty close to the beginning of the story. Definitely not that far in the story, so take this lightly. It could pick up a lot more. But that being said, I have 20 hours in the game, so that shows you how much you can explore in this game. I think I put in 10 hours before I even did the first actual story mission, which kind of crazy. But so far, the story just doesn't feel all too interesting. However, the dialogue has been pretty good. I feel like there's more real dialogue questions, and sometimes I'll catch myself responding to what the other NPC is saying, and then what I say to myself or in my head actually comes up as a dialogue option. So it feels a little more real, and I like that, because some games it'll give you these dialogue options which, like, who would say that? And also some of the companion characters, they'll randomly chime in from time to time, and usually they'll have something interesting or funny to say. Also, I like that this game doesn't give you constant verbal hits. Some games are like, oh, we should go take that ladder. Huh, I wonder what would happen if we went up there. Oh, that thing looks like you could break it. Like, I don't want to be handheld throughout the whole game. And in the 20 hours that we've played, I've heard Kai, one of our companions, point something out twice. That was a chest in some random room or something. And it does help, because then I don't have to look that often, but, you know, I don't want that to be happening all the time. So all in all, I'm going to go ahead and give Avowed an 8 out of 10. If the combat was a little more refined and there was some more variety in the loot, and maybe the skill tree was a little better, I'd be closer to a 9, maybe 9.5 even. But either way, it's a fun game, and I have a long way to go. I don't know if $70 is justified, just because some, like I mentioned, some areas are a little more janky than others. It feels a little not like a AAA game, and I'd be comfortable paying closer to 40 or 50. But honestly, if I had spent the 70, I wouldn't be mad. I just think it's worth waiting for a sale. And as I mentioned earlier, if you like Fallout, Skyrim, Outer Worlds, or just exploring and discovering and spending a lot of time in the world, I'd say this game is for you. But that's basically all I have to say about Avowed. And if you like this video, make sure you like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments what other games I should review. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.